Okay, then why don't we call this meeting to order? Good evening, everyone. Standing in for the mayor today is me. So I will lead us off here, and with our call to order, it now being 7 o'clock on the dot. And Michelle, can you please read the sunshine law?
This is a regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Keyport, Tuesday, October 6, 2020. Let the minutes show that adequate notice of this meeting as required by Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, has been provided by the annual notice, which has been posted on the bulletin boards filed with the Borough Clerk and has been sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Independent, the Star Ledger, and the Two River Times.
Okay, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Cooper. Councilmember Fotopoulos.
Here.
Councilmember Good.
Here.
Councilmember McDermott.
Here.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Here.
Councilmember Sheridan. Mayor Kennedy. And for the record, Jay Delaney, Borough Administrator.
Where is Jay?
He may be on mute. Jay. And Borough Attorney Mark Moon.
I'm here.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, did we have Jay here or no?
I see him. He was kicked out. I'm letting him back in. There he is. Jay?
Okay, I think Jay's muted. Okay, let's see. All right, as a courtesy, I guess everybody please mute your Zoom screens or your phones so we don't hear you going in the background. And at this time, can we all stand and do a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you could remain standing for a moment of silence, please, dedicated to everybody who we've lost in COVID, as well as everybody else who we've lost. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I just inserting something in our agenda. It is a proclamation related to knocking out opioids. So on behalf of the mayor, I am going to read her proclamation dated October 6th, 2020. Whereas New Jersey is in the midst of a life-threatening opioid abuse epidemic, and whereas the Partnership for a Drug-Free New Jersey has designated October 6, 2020 as Knockout Opioid Abuse Day, an initiative with a dual purpose to raise awareness of the potential for dependency on prescribed pain medicine and its link to heroin use rates in our state, reduce stigma of addiction, and shine a light on the need for recovery support, and communicate to physicians information on safer prescribing messages found in the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidelines for prescribing opioids, which include considering other therapies, setting realistic treatment goals with patients, and discussing with patients the positives and negatives of opioids. And whereas the State Senate and General Assembly jointly resolved that October 6th shall be permanently designated as Knockout Opioid Abuse Day in New Jersey in order to raise awareness about the dangers of and the link between opioid abuse and heroin addiction, and to educate healthcare providers, community leaders, state lawmakers, and members of the public about the opioid abuse epidemic and its effects throughout the state of New Jersey and across the country. And whereas the Borough of Keyport, together with the Keyport Municipal Alliance to Prevent Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, supports initiatives designed to raise awareness about opioid abuse in New Jersey and take steps to prevent addiction. Therefore, I hereby proclaim that October 6, 2020 be recognized as Knockout Opioid Abuse Day in the Borough of Keyport. In witness whereof, I have set my hand and caused the great seal of the Borough of Keyport to be affixed the 6th day of October in the year 2020, signed Colette J. Kennedy, Mayor, Borough of Keyport. Thank you. And with that, Michelle, do we have a presentation, the Veterans Housing Consortium proposal?
Yes, we have Chris Foglio. She's going to be speaking on the Veterans Housing proposal that was provided with the agenda.
Okay.
Councilman Good,
Yes.
if you wouldn't mind, I can speak to this just briefly. I want to welcome Chris to Chris, I'm Councilman Fotopoulos. You and I have spoken. I want to welcome you to our meeting to present this both very important and very timely proposal to the Borough Council of Keyport. And take it away. I appreciate it. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you so much for the introduction and for your time this evening. I will try to be brief and answer any questions that you have. I am the president and founder of an affordable housing company called Community Investment Strategies. We have been incredibly active in the Monmouth County area. We have 7 senior housing properties in Monmouth County meeting town's affordable housing obligations. And as part of that, a building in Ocean Township a few years ago came on the market on West Park Avenue, which was a residential healthcare facility. And as part of our strategic planning, we found that there was a necessity for lower cost residential healthcare as opposed to the standard assisted living offerings in Monmouth County. This property has 2 buildings on it. They're very small. It's a home-like kind of environment, of which we completely renovated one house, which has 15 rooms, and a second house, which has 18 rooms, which we had just completed the renovation of when COVID hit, and we were closed to any new admittance. And looking at where we thought the market was and some needs that were really coming to the forefront in Monmouth County, we found that a strategy for the building that had never been occupied. These buildings were built. We came in and renovated them. And if people are familiar with the area, it was a facility known as Garden Hills. It is now known as Nora, which means honor. The second building, we really started to think about should we just continue on our pathway of providing it to individuals with behavioral health or seniors in an early stage of dementia. But we really honed in on the fact that veterans in Monmouth County that need healthcare services are really faced with really 2 options, the Menlo Park Facility Veterans Home or Parsippany. And when we started looking at this was when Menlo had been closed because of an extreme amount of deaths during COVID. And both Menlo as well as Parsippany are still on like the watch list for the Department of Health. So we started to be in dialogue with the county and said, what about looking at this smaller facility, only 18 rooms, which can be double occupancy should we have the need for it, and transitioning the entire property to a veterans housing option for veterans in Monmouth. We looked at how we could provide, the county was very clear that they wanted this to be an affordable, not from a COA standpoint, but from how much somebody has to pay to go into this home-like environment. And so they asked us to look at a program that we could commit to where a vet would only pay what their veterans housing and board stipend gave them. So for example, as many people know, it depends on the length of service, the rank of service that a veteran has. So we came up with a proposal to actually look at the CARES Act funding that the county had received and see if we could meet the intent and requirements of that funding. Because this is a licensed healthcare facility by the Department of Health, it met some of the priorities for the COVID funding. So the county had asked us, let's see if there is a demand within the municipalities in Monmouth County to participate. And it would be great if this could be a consortium of municipalities and a resource for veterans housing where a town may not have the resources to build their own veterans housing. So what we came up with, we have about 10 or 11 communities that have shown interest in this and have submitted a letter to the administration. The overall program is to provide preference to those towns that are participating in the consortium. We're looking for $100,000 of authorization per bed that a municipality wants to preserve a priority for their veterans. The way that we're thinking this works is that we would, and we do this in our affordable housing, keep it running a list of priorities and wait lists, and then we would advertise, hopefully, within your municipality, on your website, with any veterans organizations that are indigenous to Keyport, and hopefully be able to provide a resource that's currently just not available in Monmouth County. So we're assuming that it will cost a vet between $850 and $1,800 a month, but that's well within the average stipend that we're seeing for Monmouth County veterans. Under the residential healthcare license, we're really able to provide almost up to nursing home care. It's really, if you're familiar with assisted living, it was the legislation prior to New Jersey adopting assisted living regulations. So there's meals, there's activities, there's transportation, and we're about 5 miles from the Veterans Clinic in Tinton Falls. So we're very excited about really offering something, although it's located in Ocean Township, something that is really servicing the county and specifically the municipalities that want to be part of the priority consortium.
Okay.
Chris,
Well,
if Matt, if I can ask some questions,
please, Councilman,
Just-
take it away.
just a couple. If the $100,000 isn't coming out of the borough's pocket, correct?
Oh, yes. So it would be a request to the county for $100,000 for veterans of Keyport, and it would be for an allocation of the CARES Act funding to this project on behalf of Keyport. This has been talked to with the county administrator as well as Freeholder Director Arnone. I know that earlier in some of the requests, there was a reimbursement requirement where the town had to show that they had costs and then they got reimbursed from the CARES Act. This does not need to meet an expenditure reimbursement standpoint. This would just be a set aside of funding. That funding will directly, I should have mentioned this, it'll go to our nonprofit. We have a 501c3. It's been created for this particular property. It's called Vet Be Well, and that will be the recipient of the funding for the program and property.
And in addition to that, it's not taking away from any CARES Act money allocated for individuals or businesses or the municipality in and of itself, correct? It's actually allocated for veterans, is it not?
It's allocated for veterans, and it's specific to the pot of funds that the county has allocated to nonprofit service organizations within the county dealing with COVID-related needs.
So if we did nothing about this, we would essentially just not use the funds and they'd be allocated somewhere else. So actually what we're doing is we're taking action to make use of these funds to provide housing for veterans within Keyport in your facility in Ocean, correct?
That's correct. The other, concern is that if it was just an idea for veterans housing, we would never be able to meet the expenditure deadline of December 31st. This is a facility up. It has a CO. It's ready to go. It wasn't occupied. The one building was not occupied because of COVID. And I should mention that the sister building on the property was occupied, and we had no cases of COVID from the beginning of March. So we really believe that the program and protocols that we're providing on a smaller scale, and if anyone knows, the veterans homes are actually quite larger. We were able to limit the amount of healthcare workers because we are a small facility, and that's what really transferred the disease so quickly through some of these facilities. So we're very confident that not only can we do it at a affordable level for veterans, but we can be a quality product for veterans.
Thank you. I want to thank, in absentia, I want to thank Councilman Sheridan for taking the lead in the initiative on this as head of the Veterans Relations Committee. And all my questions have been answered, and it sounds like a fine program to support veterans in need, and it's something we can do to help especially local veterans. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Councilman Good, I have a question.
Please.
So regarding the $100,000, is given the size of the borough of Keyport versus, let's just say, Red Bank or other counties, is this a flat rate, or was this based on the population of our size and things like that?
It was purely, we backed into the number. The county asked us, what's the number per bed that you would need to make a commitment that you would take a vet regardless of what they had available to pay. So to be quite honest, it was done on a per bed basis. It didn't matter whether you were purchasing the priority or Red Bank was purchasing the priority. It was just done in terms of $100,000 per bed. There have been a few communities which have asked for $300,000 from the county. I don't know that the county will give any one municipality $300,000. I'm not very sure that that's where they wanted to go, but if they felt that they had a significant veterans population, they were asking for more than one priority bed in their request. I know that the county plans to have a dialogue about this this week. The idea is that this would be announced in November, so it is a very fast-paced kind of initiative that they'd like to get done.
So this would give us one bed at that facility?
As a priority, but that doesn't mean that other people, other vets from Keyport, the idea is if we had a waiting list and a Keyport individual, signed on that waiting list, they would go to the top of the list. We wouldn't be able to keep a bed vacant if there was nobody from Keyport who wanted it. But the idea is that we are consistently marketing to the Keyport veterans population as opposed to general marketing for the general area. We're going to hopefully link into your veteran services groups so that we make sure that they know this is available. The idea is that you would really get priority and preference because you're part of the consortium.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Pacheco, do you have any questions? I guess not.
Oh, no, my question was asked and answered.
Okay.
Councilman Good, can I ask a quick question?
Sure, Mark.
Ms. Foglio, I'm just wondering, how are the other municipalities that are participating? What's sort of the best way to for the borough to submit their formal support? Is executed resolution sufficient, or are you looking for a formal letter on behalf of the borough?
Mark, I think the resolution, we have a resolution on the agenda for tonight.
Yeah, some towns have passed a resolution, others have just authorized the business administrator to issue a letter to the county. So whatever is, works for the municipality.
Councilman Good, I have a couple of questions if I may.
Sure, Jay.
Just so I understand, I'm familiar with the Monmouth County CARES program, which was geared initially for for-profit small businesses. It was done on a reimbursement basis, and I understand there was a nonprofit component to that. To be honest, I'm not familiar with the specifics of that nonprofit component. But my question is, once the borough makes a commitment to request the funds, what is the process? Is this, would these funds be received by the borough and then paid out on a monthly basis? Or I'm not sure I understand that part of the plan.
Okay, I can't tell you that I have all the details, but I'll tell you what I know today. This is not like a rent reduction or an operating subsidy. It's done similar to the way the county underwrites a housing project. So what I understand from the discussions I've had so far is that this would follow the same type of pathway and contract with Vet Be Well as a capital contribution, which I then will have to sign an agreement for a particular number of years that we will keep it affordable, very similar to how they give home dollars or CDBG dollars to underwrite an affordable housing project. That's the format that they have at least said they'd like to follow.
Okay, so then if I understand it, it's a one-time payment directly from the county to the organization with a commitment that the housing unit is reserved for, and I'll use the term for these for the veteran residents
That's correct.
For a determined period of time, because you said it is not a rent subsidy.
It is not a rent subsidy. It is a capital. So it does not go to the operating expenses of the property. It's a capital. It'll be a loan. And I'm waiting for documentation in terms of my side of the transaction. The idea is, to be very honest, the county didn't feel comfortable just providing it for Ocean Township and said, this is a resource that really should be available to our communities. So they instructed me to reach out to the communities that would like to be part of the consortium. It gave them an ability to offer priority and preference to communities that may not be doing veterans housing in their own community. So, for example, I know that the county has given Tinton Falls money towards a veterans affordable housing project, not out of CARES Act, but out of CDBG or home dollars. This, because it's a healthcare facility, was eligible for CARES Act funding. And so it had a different lens that the county looked at in terms of the proposal. They have assured me that it is not a reimbursement. My understanding is it does not flow through as a payment to a municipality, and the municipality then turns around and gives it to the project. That it would be a direct subsidy to the project to open, and there would be a contract between the facility and the county, which would list the communities that have a priority. We would have to show that we are keeping a wait list We would have to document that wait list on our website. We would also ask if the municipality wants any information provided so that they can post on the website. And we would be required to work with the County Veterans Administration Office, the Veterans Clinic in Tinton Falls, as well as any organizations that are servicing the veterans population in Monmouth. So that's how it's, I mean, that's the discussions up to date.
Okay, so it essentially sounds more like the borough's being asked to endorse the concept of the program and support the county funding the program with, I guess the term has been a priority for residents that may currently be a resident of Keyport.
That's correct.
May I have an answer question, please?
Isaiah,
Hello?
is that you?
Yes, it's me.
I guess we have Councilman Cooper.
I got a question. How are you disseminating this information around the county?
Well, we do not have this approval yet from the county. That's one of the reasons I'm appearing before you this evening. Once this is awarded and there's a project, we will do the appropriate affirmative marketing similar to what we do for our affordable housing. And we would definitely work with, you know, the town to find ways to either make a presentation to your veterans groups, have posted on the website. You know, we out of everyone really want to make sure people know that this is available. So we would take any and all suggestions in terms of how we should be marketing this and getting the word out to the veterans population.
Well, this was my concern. I think the idea is good, but right now, Councilman Sheridan, Fotopoulos, and myself work within community in these areas, and the food bank, the Council on Aging, and Monmouth County should all be given information as to what's going on with this, so that we can run it out all together. This is just a thought, and it'd be a smoother operation that way.
Yep, we would agree with you. And then when we can say that we've been fully approved, I'd like to follow up with you if that would be okay, Councilman, so that we could coordinate that outreach and information.
I think that's a good idea because right now we work together. All the nonprofits are pretty closely aligned, but just to make sure that we had the same type of literature advertisement and a drop off and a pickup point for information would afford you the best possible turnout, best bang for your dollars, I think.
Okay, well, that sounds good to me.
Okay.
I just have one last question, Councilwoman McDermott. So just to make sure I'm clear, this is not going to impact any funding that we currently receive off other existing programs. Like, for example, Councilman Cooper just mentioned all these other programs that we may or may not qualify for the CARES Act.
My understanding is that this is funding that would not be open to a direct request from the municipality, that this would have been in their pot for nonprofit service organizations.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to confirm that. Thank you.
I can understand your concern.
Okay, and with that, I'd like to thank you, Ms. Foglio, for your presentation. I guess one of the first things, we do have a resolution that is on our agenda. So if you'd like to hang around, you're more than welcome. If you have other things to do, I can understand.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. All right, we're moving on to our consent agenda. Do just any council members have any questions about any of the agenda items? Okay, not seeing anybody on the council member side.
Excuse me 1 second, Maps. Sorry. Just real quick, Councilwoman Pacheco, Police Commissioner, the resolution for 25220, this isn't adding any police, hold on, not 252.
251.
Yeah, right. This isn't adding a police officer, correct? This is simply replacing someone who's not there or who's leaving?
This is promoting, for lack of a better term, a full-time, one of our specials to full-time. And Jay, okay, sorry. And Jay, correct me if I'm wrong. I'd have to look at my notes. There isn't, this will help, this will take care of some overtime issues we've been having. And also we'll be able to help with the dispatch desk, for lack of a better term, as well.
Yes, the police chief and captain have identified cost savings. But to directly answer Councilman Fotopoulos' question, this is increasing the staffing in the police department by 1, which is within the authorized staffing level, but does represent an increase of 1 officer from the most recent staffing level within the police department.
We've already approved the staffing level. We're just now approving this hire, correct?
Right. This isn't increasing the staffing level. This is bringing it to the cap.
Understood. And it's not increasing the budget per se either, right?
No, because there will be
There's savings, actually.
There's savings because there'll be overtime savings and things like that as well.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do I have any other council members that have questions?
Councilor McDermott, and there are 2 officers. Well, there's going to be 2 officers retiring at the end of the year. So just for everyone's reference as well.
Has that been
Oh, planned. It's planned.
actually?
It's planned.
If I may, the council may recall that earlier this year, specifically in the summer months, there were 2 appointments made to the police department in anticipation of retirement. Those 2 retirement have been filed with an expected effective retirement date of December 31.
That was my question there, whether or not they have been.
Yes, they're filed. So not only will we be receiving obvious savings due to some overtime issues, we will also obviously be having some breakage in the salaries because this new hire will not be making the salary of the 2 officers that are retiring.
Okay. Anybody else? All right.
Councilman, just to point out, the last item on the consent agenda is the authorizing the grant program. Information had been distributed late last week, and just if I may, a quick 2-minute update to the council. The state of New Jersey announced last Thursday afternoon this grant program. It is a limited program in the sense that it is only open to I believe it's a number of 24 municipalities in the state that are currently operating a state-funded neighborhood preservation program. This does have a quick turnaround, and while I have the opportunity, I'd like to thank Nicole Henn, our NPP coordinator, in putting together this grant application. The information has been provided, somewhat late in specifics. The grant application was just completed late this afternoon, and it is due tomorrow, October 7th. Quickly, this does, the request by the borough is to seek funds in the amount of $200,000, which would be for direct grants to local businesses within Keyport that are located within the neighborhood preservation program district area, as well as providing some general funding for businesses, not in the form of reimbursements, but rather in the form of purchases of personal protective equipment and related matters, all in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Nicole is on the call. she's happy to answer any specific questions the council has. The total amount that's being requested, as I said, is $200,000 in funding for direct grants and the reimbursements, as well as $15,000, the maximum allowable reimbursement that would be reserved to the borough to cover the administrative costs of administering this grant program. This is for, it is expected to be a quick turnaround once the award is made, presumably or hopefully to the borough, that we can get the grant funds out to the local businesses. And this represents reimbursements, I believe it's for the period starting October 1 through the end of the year, as well as for not previously reimbursed expenses incurred by these businesses retroactive to May 22nd.
And if I may, obviously nothing's guaranteed in the grant process, but I do think that the work we've done with the previous MPP funding has impressed the group. So, we are on very good standing with them.
Is there any matching component to this grant funding?
There is no matching grant. This is a 100% grant with no local match required.
Okay. Nicole, you've done a hell of a job, so I thank you for jumping on this. And I think everybody did see, well, at least they should have seen the pictures posted from Fireman's Park this weekend, where we had a dedication of a portion of our NPP program funding. So thank you, Nicole. I appreciate that. Okay. Anybody else? Council. All right.
Yeah, it's me. The other thing is, there might be potential adjustment of the map. So any updates to those mappings or locations for businesses that were not in the traditional zone is going to be updated and available for communication out.
You're talking about the NPP map, right?
Yes, the original map. There might be, I think there's a possibility to extend out beyond so we're able to get a few other businesses giving us the opportunity.
Okay.
So that will be communicated out once we finalize this.
Excellent. Okay. Can I have a motion to open it up to the public on?
Second.
I'm not feeling well.
Can I get all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
The meeting is open to the public for comments on any items listed on the agenda. And okay, we'll start with anybody on the video that has an actual video call. All right, not seeing anybody. Anybody on the phone call? I guess, Michelle, if you need to unmute anybody, please do so. Do I hear anybody on the phone calls?
Michael Lane, 51 First Street, Keyport.
Mr. Lane, please, you have the floor.
Good evening, Councilman Good and rest of the council. Couple of items. Regarding Resolution 250, widening of the bridge R3 across Chingarora Creek. Are members of the council aware of how many times the roadway to that bridge was flooded during the September new moon tide?
My count was 6.
Right. And the reason is the roadway on the Union Beach side is well above 7 feet. But on the Keyport side, at the intersection of Walnut and First, the ground elevation is about 6.5 feet. And it drops down to under 4 feet as you approach the bridge. And so this resolution talks about widening the bridge, but have we confirmed that the roadway is going to be elevated and that there's going to be a sidewalk added with the roadway?
Jay, I know that there's been discussions about lifting the road because of that. The sidewalk, that I don't know. Jay, do you have that information readily at hand?
Yeah, I can.
Whoop.
You went back on mute.
I cannot speak to the specifics as to the addition of sidewalks. It is my understanding from conversations with the borough engineer that there, in addition to the bridge reconstruction, there is a component of the bridge being raised and the access road to the bridge also being elevated. The specifics as to the height at which it would be elevated, I cannot speak to, but I can inquire as to that and the question as to sidewalk.
When Trevor was with us during the walk with Mr. Gallo back in 2016, a very strong input was given that part of the reason to widen the bridge was to have a sidewalk across the bridge and have a sidewalk all the way from Walnut Street to Union Beach.
Mr. Lane, we will check on that sidewalk, and Jay will, I guess, take a note for that. Let's hope that the county learned its lesson from the construction of the other bridge.
Right, Matawan Creek, for example.
But I do know that that's been discussed about raising that to get it out.
Right, and it's, First Street used to flood all the time by Beach Park until we raised it to 7 feet. And it hasn't flooded since then, except once when we had a full silting in of the outfall pipe. On communications, regarding the use of borough property, and there's a whole set of resolutions or communications regarding use of the borough property. We're in the COVID-19 pandemic. I ask that you give a requirement, make a requirement in dealing with all these requests for use, that the organization provide masks to the attendees when they don't show up with a mask. And if you think about it, the truck or treat, all these little kids crowding around the table to get their treats and their soda, where's the social distancing going to be enforced? Where are the masks going to be enforced? There's 2 truck or treat events where this is an issue. There's an event, the ghost tours, which we're all using borough property at some point in time. The ghost tours, is there going to be a requirement that from the borough that the person who's running these ghost tours provide masks to all the attendees?
Actually, yes, Mr. Lane. The request on that says yes, we'll be required to wear masks.
But yes, but will the organization running the tours provide masks to those people who show up without masks?
I think it would be a good thing to advise the groups. I don't know about requiring them to do so as a condition of approval, but I think it's a good idea to at least tell them.
I request that the council think real hard about that issue and require them. I'm just amazed by the number of people that go down First Street without a mask, that go along the promenade without a mask. It's
Mr. Lane, that's all over town, unfortunately.
I understand that, but now we're talking about use of borough property, and so we have some leverage. And
I hate to say this, but I agree with you.
And I'll mention one other thing. There was an event probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. The railing on the promenade was absolutely mobbed. And then there was a huge release of balloons, which I thought was also not allowed. And so somehow we need to make these organizations liable for enforcing the COVA requirements. And
When was this event with the balloon release?
I have some pictures. I'd have to go back in the file and try to find them.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, because I was aware of that. Thank you. Bring that to our attention.
But the problem is, I'll send you the pictures. The problem is it was after dark, So you have to look really hard to find the balloons.
Got it.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Hi, this is Council McDermott. So for one of the events for the Recreation Committee, masks will be provided. So that's been part of the planning.
I think that's fantastic. You have the registration by the women's voters. I think they need to provide masks because people are going to be coming up to the table.
That's in the letter. They will be providing masks. It's in the letter, Mike.
All right. So we need to ensure that they do that. Under unfinished business, I have a couple items. And this is item that's been on the table off and on for a period of time. The CRS program. The residents of Keyport who have to buy flood insurance, this program has the potential to significantly impact our flood insurance, and it's just laid dormant. Nobody has followed up on it. My perception is we're not following up on it. Also, if you could give some insights on unfinished business, the TAP Pedestrian Safety Improvement Program. Again, when are we going to have a stakeholders meeting and public input? Nothing's happened since the last. And there was one other, there was a resolution. Oh, I know. There was a communications about speed limit on in town. And I'll point out a couple things. I think it's great that the county is going to align with 25 miles per hour on Broad Street between Butler and First Street. But if you survey, you'll find we don't have signs between West Front Street and First Street as to the speed limit. Also, if you look at that speed limit note from the county, the area between Route 36 and Butler Street, Butler is where the new skateboard park is, varies between 30 and 25. It's 30 if there's no children around, and it's 25 if school's in session. I mean, why for that block and a half would we not just make it 25, period? So that all of Broad Street from Route 36 to First Street is 25 miles an hour. I ask you to really look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. Okay, anybody else on the phone lines have any questions about any items on the agenda? Going once. Okay, neither seeing nor hearing anybody, can I have a motion to close the public comment?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, can I have a motion on approving the resolutions on our consent agenda?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, Michelle, can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Yes.
Councilmember Good,
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now we're moving on to communications by consent, numbers 1 through 11. And I believe, though, Michelle, we pulled number 9. Is that correct? We got the numbers correct?
yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
1 through 11, 9 being pulled, and then for approval, and then to receive and file.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? What was being pulled?
Number 9 on the, communication number 9.
Councilman, if I may also, I had the opportunity to speak with the mayor, and she just asked me to pass on a comment regarding the items for consent regarding the use of borough facilities. And it was just a reminder that there seemed to be an increase in the request for the waiver of the fee. The mayor pointed out that many of these events, sponsored by nonprofit organizations, some local within the community, some without, oftentimes do incur costs by the borough for cleanup, setup, and mostly in terms of trash removal, that sort of thing. So it was just a comment regarding that, which was identified as maybe a proliferation of requests to waive the fee on these items.
Okay, and that looks like we have that one for what numbers?
Number 4 has it listed as a waiver, requesting waiver fee.
Yeah, number 4, number 5, and number 10, I believe.
It's the Art Society, and number 10 being the League of Women Voters.
What is the fee for the public's
It's
reference?
$100. Well, actually, it depends on where we're talking about. It looks like for the, where do we see the Kiwanis, that would be waterfront. That's $100. Let's see, the parking lot on Pine Street with the Art Society. I don't even know.
That's
that
100, I think.
It's 100 just because
Yeah, I think
have
everything's a flat of 100. No?
we have to change this thing. All right, and I guess the same thing for number 10. Do we have any discussion amongst the council members about that?
No.
Anybody? No.
I have no objection to these 3 actually, but that's just my thinking.
Yeah, I mean, we can discuss it.
These are low impact.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
And we're going to benefit from it.
Yeah,
Hey, listen, just that seemed to be the discussion. Okay.
okay.
Joe?
I mean, just if there was like cleanup by Department of Public Works, or like we have to use borough services to clean or do something, I think that's when there might be an exception to this. But I don't think these are
I agree.
pertaining
I
to
agree.
this.
Yeah, and I think that could be also is that these aren't the first
Right,
time
these are-
he's been asking, and I don't think historically that we've had an issue with cleanup unless somebody wants to contradict me there. Okay, so with that, I guess understanding, do we have a motion to approve communications 1 through 11 without a number 9 and receive and file 12 through 15?
Motion.
Second,
Wait, I think we need to stay with the waiver. Typically, we say with a waiver for number 4, whatever.
I think the waivers are already, you're right.
Waivers on the
Just
agenda.
to put it on, the waivers have been requested, so I guess any motion is going to
What
be.
was it? It was 4, 5, and 10, right? I just want to see.
Yes.
They're on-
yes.
4, 5, and 10.
It's on the agenda. It says also requesting waiver of the fee. Unauthorized.
In the past, you've always said it, that's all.
Oh, thank you very much for catching that one. Okay, who made that motion?
I did.
Do you want to
Second.
amend it to include with the waiver?
Yeah. Amended to include with the waiver. Absolutely.
Okay. Dennis, you second that with the waiver?
Yes.
Okay. Can I get a roll call on that, Michelle?
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Yes.
Councilmember Good,
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
and Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes. Oh, it's
Thank you.
there.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is the approval of minutes for the September 15th, 2020 meeting. Do we have any discussion on those minutes?
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Well, I just want to
Second.
comment that it's very impressive that we get these like on the
Oh,
next.
yeah. This is like amazing.
Yep.
For some of us who have not seen minutes, for at least 6, 8, 10 months or so, this is impressive.
Thank
Yes,
you,
many-
Michelle, and thank you,
Many
Patty.
thanks to Patty, yes. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Pat. Thank you, Patty Olson, and thank you, Michelle, for sure.
Okay, I think we did have a motion and a second, right, Michelle? Yes.
I
Okay.
have Councilmember Fotopoulos making a motion to approve.
I'll second. I think I meant to.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we got a second from Councilman Pacheco. Let's see, do I have, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Moving on, do we have any new business to discuss?
Just there may have been some communication that the council members have seen or not, but one of our constituents, Mike Palmisano, wrote, he's the vice chair of the Environmental Commission. Homedale has adopted, in reference to some of the discussion that was brought up in particular by Ed Carew, Homedale has adopted what's called a non-engine braking ordinance, meaning that you can't brake your car, you can't stop your car or trucks with your engine, causing loud noise. And I was wondering if over the course to the next meeting, just out of respect for what Mr. Carew has brought up, I can share that with the rest of council if you haven't seen it, and maybe we can come up with something similar in the future.
Maybe we could spin, and I don't speak for you, Captain Torres, I think you're on here.
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt, we can loop in as actually, Victoria, what I can do is forward it to you and you can take the lead if you'd like.
Yeah, forward it to me and then I'll circulate it on the police side.
Yep.
I will be happy to, take a look at that, but it just seems like, and I've seen those signs in Homedale, but to me, that just seems like the noise ordinance again. I mean,
it is. It amounts to a very specific portion, a very specific instance. But again, I looked at it. There are definitely changes that I would want to make, but I just wanted to bring it up out of respect for the request, and of course, out of respect for some of the discussions we've had at previous meetings.
Can definitely, why don't you just float that around? And,
Yep.
of course,
Just
Mark
wanted
will
to
take a
give a
look
heads
at
up.
it, and we could also just see whether or not that's encompassed in our noise ordinance. Which
That makes sense too. Yep.
anybody else have any?
I
New
have a
business.
quick new business, and it's Jay or either Captain Torres, I'm not sure. I know we just put a new speeding awareness in front of like Gerber Salon, that area. Can we put the speeding sign of whatever the speed limit is over it? Because it tells you what you're speeding, but it doesn't tell you what your limits are. I don't know if, Jay, I don't know if that's something that will go over to DBW or that goes over to the police department. If we could just put a speeding sign up there.
The speed
I'll
limit sign?
coordinate with the appropriate department. That is a county road, but I know you're talking about the flasher sign, the radar sign.
Yes.
There's a flasher sign, but there's no speed limit sign.
Right.
So, I mean, you should know if you're speeding on that road, but.
Hey, I don't know, sometimes it helps. I know we've done that in other instances where we had those flashy signs, and that's helped. That's all.
I'll take care of that.
Okay, thank you.
I hear you guys. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm receiving this information.
Thank you, Captain. Anybody else on new business?
Yeah, I've got one more thing I'd like to add.
Yes, Isaiah, please.
Okay. We are hit with a lot of people, especially during the cold, inclement weather, and people that are out of housing and so forth. We need to share whatever information with the pantry, since we deal with most of the people in town that have problems of that sort. And just as a heads up, if there's some information that there's something that comes available, we'd like to be added on the mailing list or whatever, just to pass it on so that we can disseminate it to our clients as they come in.
Okay.
Jay,
make a note.
One of the things that's interesting about the food pantry is they actually have access to some semblance of social services and social worker that can help in an expeditious fashion where, perhaps if it's not a law enforcement issue, the borough can't. So I appreciate and support that suggestion by Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Councilman Cooper. I think that is a great idea, and the food pantry does an incredible amount of work on behalf of not only residents of Keyport, but also the surrounding communities. Okay. Well, let's see. Moving on to unfinished business. There were a couple. Anybody want to take on Mr. Lane's 3 points of the community resiliency program? Does anybody have any information on that? Looking at Jay mostly.
If you'd like me to address, I believe that the Borough Engineer's Office is handling the CRS, that's the Community Rating System under the flood insurance program. That is there's a fair, I should say, significant amount of ramping up to that program. My last conversation very early after my arrival here with the borough engineer was that that is a project that they are spearheading. I'll check on the status of that. As far as the TAP, I believe I reported at the last meeting that there had been correspondence out to initiate the first notifications to the utility companies. That has happened. I do not have a specific date, but I will obtain a timeline to report on when we do expect to have the public participation component kick off on that.
Okay. All right. Now, the only other one was the speed limit signs on Broad Street. And I think that is, again, a county issue since it is county. So, Jay, when you're talking with county about the speed limit sign on West Front, you can see if they want to throw in some extra speed limit signs on Broad Street. Okay.
I'll add that to the list. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any unfinished business to discuss? Okay. Well, attorney's report.
Nothing to report, Councilman. It's been quiet on my end so far.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear. All right. So we have reached the public comment portion of our agenda. I'm going to please limit comments to no more than 5 minutes per person. Can I get a motion to open to the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. We're open to the public. So first is the video conference persons. Anybody on video? Any public comment they wish to say? No, Andrew's shaking his head. I see Ed Carew. He's just smiling at me. Okay. Looks like we'll go to anybody on the phone lines.
Mike Lane,
Mr. Lane, please, you have the floor.
Councilman Good. The marijuana legalization is on the ballot. I'll bring up a suggestion I made in the past was that we delineate where marijuana dispensaries can be located ahead of time. And delineate it to be the highway district. And I remind council, most of which were not here when this happened, but when Estasis was going to have a adult entertainment XXX location in Keyport on the highway, fortunately, we enacted an ordinance ahead of time that said the only place that could be located was in the industrial district along up the hill.
Northern part of the town.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to remember, near the Parkway.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it may be preemptive, but probably a good preemption to delineate where a marijuana dispensary could be held. You know, much like we delineate the distance for a liquor establishment from schools, from residentials, from churches. Now, we may get superseded by the ordinance, by the law that comes from the state, but at least we'd be in a position to be protected ahead of time. So I asked the council, and there's not a lot of time to act, to take that on. And also, quick question. Any input from the borough engineer on the NPP floodgate location in light of the number of times that site was flooded during the September new moon?
Did you say the NPP floodgate?
Yes, the NPP floodgate at the entrance to Fireman's Park from the bend on American Legion Drive.
Okay. You know what, Jay, can we just, it doesn't look like Trevor's on here, so let's just make a note. Can we take a note and ask Trevor?
Will do.
About that?
Yeah, I copied, I believe, to all council people in the UJ, the tide measurements in the bay and the number of times that roadway was flooded. And the fact that the Fireman's Park floods before the bend floods. Finally, on the speed limit sign on Broad Street between West Front and First, the county has already said 25 miles per hour is the limit. We just don't have any sign.
Oh, yeah, but we also have to, stupidly, we have to wait for them to actually do something with that, I believe. But
Really?
Jay already has it.
Because when we approved the townhouses, we put in the requirement that the before the corner at Broad and First, that we would stripe no parking. And as far as I know, we didn't need county approval for that.
Needing county approval and getting county approval might be two different things. Striping, I'm pretty sure the county doesn't care, but again, we'll check on that because Jay's already talking to the county about signs. But Mr. Lamb, with regard to the marijuana legalization, I just know that considering it is the beginning of October, to try to get an ordinance, a zoning ordinance passed, which has to be referred to the planning board for them to hear and then referred back to us. I'm not sure that we have enough time in this session. That might be something that we put on our plates for the beginning of next year, just as a pure timing thing.
Well, the challenge will be if I'll give you the smoke shop on West Front Street, which is already advertising medical equipment for marijuana, jumps the gun and we don't have an ordinance, it'll be too late.
Well, there is a difference between medical equipment and actual sale of marijuana. But again, I'm not saying that it's a very good idea. I just don't know that we have the time considering that the referral to the planning board is necessary on something like that.
Well, I would urge the council to get started on that issue.
Okay.
And final item, back at the 9/1 council meeting, in addition to Ed Carew's input on the noise from mufflers, which I can attest to, I thought there was a lot of enthusiasm to work the problem that Mike Palmisano and the Environmental Commission have been pushing, to push the county for a 25 mile per hour speed limit on First Street and on Broadway. Did that enthusiasm just evaporate?
No, it's still there. As a matter of fact, hopefully next week, we're going to have that meeting that we were discussing with the police. We haven't reached out to the police about next week yet, but Mike, just to just to assure you, yes, it's still, we're still enthused and we're still pursuing it. Councilwoman Pacheco and I are.
And it's interesting because the eastern end of First Street is about, traffic-wise, as acceptable as Broad Street by the bank that went out of business in terms of safely moving down the road. You can't really do it above 25 miles an hour, and when there's traffic coming the other way. And so, just as Broad Street is 25 miles an hour all the way from Butler to First, we need to get First Street 25 miles an hour. Thank you for the opportunity to give input.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. Anybody else on the phone lines have any public comment? Please speak up. Michelle, I assume everybody is unmuted if they want to.
They can unmute themselves if they want to.
Okay. Anybody?
They can hit *6 on their phone.
Okay. Anybody on the phone lines? Not seeing anybody speaking up. Do I have a motion to close the public comment portion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I don't think we have any closed or anything. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you
and
very much.
have a wonderful
Good night.
rest of the evening.
Too.
Good night, everybody. Good night. Thank you.
Andrew, I got your emails. I'll reach out. Okay.